Vriendjes en vriendinnetjes, van Bassie en Adriaan zijn al 35 verschillende videobanden. Hier zien jullie bijvoorbeeld de serie van onze reis door Europa. Ja.
The recognition of
like you live it, but there is a context that that I can change and I can feed, because I can change stuff. Because if I leave it and I'm the present of what I'm present, then if I'm present in a context, I can change that. But I think the art world is missing it. And I think, well, this is very direct by saying it, but I think there's another way that you can channel this information to an audience while not having to say this, you know? Or for example, like also like a painting of like I don't know, like who was like not Da Vinci, this Dutch painter.
The surreal shit.
He's like super famous painter.
the Van Gogh.
Yeah, Van Gogh, like the Night Stars of Van Gogh, you know, like super psychedelic, and like he doesn't say anything, it's just showing it. But now it's just a before it wasn't a painting, so when you saw a painting you were like, whoa, a painting, because it was something different. But that's like, oh, now it's like a painting. And then you move on and now it's a painting, it's a sculpture, it's like dead. It's something that has been used to.
Yes.
So I think now there must be a new medium in the arts.
Why to with its freshness be able to convey what it is truly conveying,
Yeah.
by people projecting something onto it which is it's not saying, so this freshness will allow it.
Yeah. And more accurate, for a more accurate channeling. And I think like performance does that, but
Projection free, yeah, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, like performance has this, but like there is like something else that is coming, which you said life is art. So you have to be able to live it in that context. But how do you...
By recognizing that we don't have to create something which is currently already not present. I think that is the answer to that question. And I don't know.
Expand?
Like, how do we make... what's your question again? Go again, so beautifully.
Like, what is the material that can channel most accurately what already expressed? Like, what is that material?
The recognition that there does not need to be a storyline created separate from what is actually currently already happening. So the recognition that everything which needs to be conveyed, and this liveness which you're talking about, this is the recognition that we don't need to create like a storyline or a form which is separate from what is actually happening already now. To be able, you know what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah, but it does. If I put you in a gallery space,
Yes.
if I just throw you in a gallery space, well, you don't have to do anything for that to be expressed because it's already expressing, but somebody's not listening. And you can say like, yeah, well, it's their fault if they're not listening, but as an artist, I have a point of view that I can change something, I can influence something. So for example, if I start making a live sculpture of like, let's say, like a snake, then it already implies this and this and this message, which narrows it down. If I want to say, okay, like temptation, you know, and a snake, it could come, it could be the devil, it could be also the cosmic serpent, it could be, but then you do, for example, like a painting, for me it's less accurate, but if the performance, then it's slightly more accurate, okay, like I'm a snake and I'm using my body and my speech maybe to tempt, but I'm still using body and language, but there's another medium that doesn't need all this and can still be perceived, because if I put you there and you just sit there, you're just a person sitting, even if you are doing...
You're very driven to expressing something within a moment with no medium, with silence, with what is actually happening by itself without it explicitly being expressed, like also the scenes which are happening, right? There's silence and there's just this simplicity of what is actually happening, and it's all there. It doesn't even need to be expressed with a medium to make it explicit or to make it more emphasized. You know, you're touching upon this reality which is constantly present, and it already speaks by itself, and it's already sufficient.
Yes.
Okay, because maybe you're trying to show that we're moving away from this simplicity of all the things which are already present and their natural emphasis and realness by creating maybe something more, you know, unique and extraordinary to express it. So you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
You're bringing people back to the grounded aspect. Hey, it's also here. It's also in this place, which was maybe that place from which we have departed in order to get to this crazy place to really, from maybe our addiction of expressing it, or maybe just consciousness is itself play of expressing itself in such a way, dramatically depicting it in this most extraordinary way. But this extraordinariness is already in its simplicity.
Yeah.
What I would say is, may it be brought back even further back. And where is that further back? This moment, right now. That further back is what is happening right now. That further back is that there needs to be a storyline created, maybe, which may be the middle ground. Let's call your ground the middle ground.
Yeah,
There's
sure.
no Yumi. The middle ground contains a storyline. It contains an expression. And this expression maybe is not so extraordinarily uniquely emphasizing something in order to bring that realness out, as maybe something like dancing on a unicorn could be, but it's simply talking with a plant or waking up. It has that reality which can be equally felt as in this moment, as in the dancing of the unicorn, right? So there's something which wants to be expressed, the realness of life, right?
Yeah.
But it is also here all the time. Right now, this is happening. What is this? This is happening by itself. Do I have a storyline which is creating and this thing? No, this thing is happening by itself right now. The tap, whatever is happening like this. You know, this is not something which I project right now that now is going to happen. It's happening right now with itself. You know, and so maybe art can move away from all of this stuff and recognize that there no longer needs to be a storyline. A storyline projected and deviated from what is actually happening right now. But that the storyline is right here, right now. So what if we no longer pretend that, you know, we need to create this scene to bring the realness of it, but the realness is already here, right now, this moment, this is happening, you know? So yeah, put on the camera and record this, you know, why record something which is, but then again we come back to why would that be less real than something which is already real by itself?
That's pretty good. Like if a, like for example, if a person is angry, and it's with him right now, right here, right?
Yeah.
Like how do I give, like, I get it, like the, like, I really like how you put the now in the...
You're not showing him the realness anymore.
But I want
It's
to give
shown
him
to yourself,
Yeah.
but to yourself as the impersonal absolute. The impersonal absolute is holding on a mirror to itself at all times, like, you know, he can be totally angry and you want to show him maybe the realness or whatever of it, right? You want to reflect that back to him to show it as an object of expression. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, no, I think by existing, I think I already reflect the now,
Yeah.
but I think the art has the gift to create a space, a context, which the now can be present. So, because if somebody's angry, he's not allowed to express this anger in society, you know, or he's allowed, but it's not really not really reasonable. So I think the art has the power to create a construct, an illusion of the now. Because we keep missing the now. You have to be either enlightened on some spiritual master to be able to be in the now all the time. And if the now holds everything, including anger and love and all this stuff that are not being expressed in the normal jobs, on the normal institution or a schooling system, then the job of art is to create that space which the now is freely expressed.
But this is my question. Why does the art needs to create a job of the now, which something can be expressed when the now already what is happening right now is that space and that context which can be. This is my question. Why does?
But it's not, because the now it doesn't express itself, because it's not expressed.
Why not? Like, why is this any less expressed in something than a context which would be created by art in order to express something? Why would you know, where is this
But
idea?
I think that now has the
And maybe this brings us back to believing that what is now already by itself as a context of its own is too mundane to express something which can then convey an experience of realness. And this brings us back maybe to the pattern of ever more complexified, extraordinary, unique formats and contexts to express the realness of life, because then, no, that's why is life even expressing the realness of its own realness, you know what I mean? But do you see the pattern?
yes,
Maybe the pattern starts right now. Like one segmentation is infinite segmentation. Like, why does it even begin? Why is, and the pattern is such that art is expressing sometimes a context which might not be the one which is actually already happening now, in order to convey the realness of life. So why does it believe that? Why would the context which is currently happening right now, all of it right now, why would it be less real than a context which would be created to express its realness? And why would people even experience it as being less real? What is that? Is this all an illusion? Is this all an idea? And then another question, why would we want to experience the realness of life in the first place? So that's my...
I think in the contemporary society, people don't know what's real.
Okay.
And if you don't know what's real, you're not in the now. So I think when you're referring to the now, the reality of existence, you are referring to a consciousness that is aware that when you're having dinner with your family, for example, and you're angry at your father, you cannot just get up and just throw your plate because it's inappropriate. But for example, in an art gallery or in a film, that would happen.
Yes.
So the problem is, first of all, that people are not really living in reality. And if they're not really living in reality, then the now cannot be expressed because they're not here.
Okay.
They're either forward or backwards. So if they are forwards or backwards and they're not here, an artist have the potential to be here, then I think it's also, if I'm an artist, I'm going to make up a new word, a liveist. I believe in life. If you believe in life, you believe in art. So why would an artist not make a scenario that true reality can manifest? But I think it's also his job. Like an artist, like somebody who lives in the now, he can also just meditate. He can also work in the garden. He can do everything that excites him the most is the now. But the job of the artist is to make a space for others to experience it. So in a certain sense,
I understand
like
what you're saying.
like-
I would say that already by living that truth, he is already that space which people can experience it, and it is most of all that way that he will be able, or that it will be able to share to its highest degree of perfection, and that creating a context is actually living it and comes out of living it. It's not like he won't be living it, he will be creating a context where it will be lived for others to be shared. He will be living it each and every moment, and the living of it itself will come to create a context. Life itself will want to create a context when how it can share. And but what you're saying there is that the unfoldment of the now, ever seemingly maybe more and more into the mental realm, which can already be not totally present into what is happening, creates a dynamic, creates a flow in which the now is no longer flowing in a really real way, but all that realness is sucked into the mental layer, and then in the end creates like a now which is no longer as real as it can be, or is no longer as real as it is in a way. But and then for that purpose, then art can show a context to grab attention of the now and show how to be the now, so to return back from the mental sphere into the now. You know what I'm trying to say here?
But they're
Yes.
already there. Like,
Exactly, and I wouldn't. So
like that's the purpose of art in a way.
yes,
Like if you French writer. He wrote about the virtualization of society, and that was not virtual in the way that we use virtual nowadays in being something online or electronic, but in that we put everything in so many words and without an experience, but it's more a third-hand experience, and then everything becomes mental because everything we know comes out of somebody else's experience. And art is this thing where you can drag some people out of this third-hand experience, but give them in some way a real kind of thing.
So you're dragging them out of the mental sphere back into the now.
To experience.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You're sucking out people from, or you're sucking the mind out of its
Mindness.
itself,
Yeah.
and you're bringing it back into the now, out of which the mind itself originates from. But then already we're depicting, or we're defining that the now and the realness of it, if it is dragged into the mental sphere, is not real per se. There can be a recognition and an understanding that the now, as it is flowing right now, in this particular planet, you can say, very much driven collectively onto the mental sphere, which is happening less and less. The mental sphere identity or suffering is coming closer to the now, and the recognition that everything is eternal and life itself. You can also bring that topic to it, right? Like this mental sphere in the now as it is flowing currently, like right now in the collective realm, is real, and is not any less real than it will be or it is when it is totally here collectively, because it is the part of it. The flowing of it right now, you know what I mean, cannot ever be or was or will be more now and real as it can be or was, or it's always the same amount of realness. It's always the same amount of realness. Whether
To expand on that, I would say like there's a certain urgency though. Like I think like talking about art, because now this can tap into also philosophy, can also tap into spiritualism, but also science. The creation is happening in the lab right now. But I think the artist, and I could also say and the science as well, has an urgency. And I think that urgency also, like a quote from Terence McKenna, like the artists who are self-selected have the permission slip out of society to see beyond. And and the job of artists, the job of artists is to save the soul of mankind.
wow, this is
Anything less is like waiting for the dethering and burn of Rome.
Wow.
So he's putting the artist on a pedestal that says, okay, you are self-selected and you have the permission slip out of society to take action.
That is extraordinary, sorry,
Yeah.
because the realness of the dynamic of it right now is that the realness of the moment right now in life right now is such that it is creating a form in order to pull itself back from the mental sphere and into the now. So the form which it is creating to pull itself back from the mental sphere and into the now is itself, and not any less or any more than the mental sphere and the now, where it is both happening. So it's like, it's creating warriors to pull itself back, and those warriors are it. And this is extraordinary what you say. Like,
But it's the manifestation of it. It's the act of manifesting who drags it from the mental down. So in that sense, the manifestation of an art piece for me has to be manifested. Even if the now is the now and the now, and it will always be the now,
Yes.
it's still in some sort etheric. And I think artists have the dynamic, or have the ability or the power to take the ethericness and make it solid. And I think this is where the criticalness comes in. That's why I think a lot of theories about art and language is also very etheric. It doesn't have an action, because the minute you manifest it, it ripples. So I think the job of artists is also to make something manifest. But it doesn't have to be manifest because it already exists in an etheric level.
Yes, and the etheric is where everything is manifested out of. So if there's a lot of etheric light, then everything which is manifested out of it and within it will naturally reflect the etheric light without the need for even an action. But then the living of the etheric is an action of its own. But yeah, go on.
But that's why we're humans.
The grounded aspect.
If we didn't have to manifest shit, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, they're bringing the grounded aspect. It is absolute,
Yes.
but there's also the play
It's
of life.
absolute,
There's
but
yes.
if it was absolute enough, we wouldn't be here.
Yes, yes. I mean, this is the absolute. But it is also the form which is dancing. You know.
I mean,
That's what,
if it's absolute, if it's absolute in the way that it's etheric, in this absoluteness, then why are we here? Why are we matter? So I think also the role of humanity is to manifest something, and I think art, in a way, there's nothing else but to manifest. There's no other escape. I mean, as an artist at least, I think from a spiritual plane, I mean, if you meditate, you manifest non-physical. You are coming in contact with stuff that don't physically exist. You come in contact with a space that is not physically inside of you,
yes,
like
you are that
muscle.
contact.
Yeah,
so
you are
you
that
can say
space.
that every experience is manifesting, be it an action or not. Every experience one is having, every moment is a manifestation of its own.
Yes, that's good.
And whether it be depicted as an explicit action or whether it be depicted as whatever is happening, be it a thought, and again we are segmenting the formats in order that via the categorization we can represent them and reflect them in a way to show that they're all the same, and that the moment they appear there is manifestation. Even without them there is manifestation. Each and every moment is a manifestation. You know, but and then like what you're saying, this is also intermingled, you know, so you're saying that the role of art itself is that at this particular moment, because it is not separate from life and it is life itself, to pull its own liveness back to its nowness, or to pull its own reality from its mental sphere, which is no less real than the now, because it is the now, back to its nowness. Why? So art is life, and it is also an empty space in the sense that it takes the shape and it takes the intention out of the moment it is lived in. And right now in the dynamic of consciousness on this planet, or this reality right here, it is empty, and it has the intention of bringing life back to the now, of bringing life back to the realization of who we all are, right?
Yeah, I think art is the Shakti.
Okay.
So art is Shakti, and like Shakti is the force behind.
Yes, Shiva.
So I think art is Shakti, just has the power to manifest in any direction.
And then the Shiva which it's taken upon the Shakti is a reflection of the dynamic of what is actually currently happening right now? Or what do you want to say?
I think I want to say that I think well, Shiva exists in presence, and with Shakti has the tools to work and make nets and make different.
Yes, yes.
But Shakti is always there. It's always there.
Yes.
Just blowing until you put something in front of it. So I think also art is the blowing, like,
Yes.
but I think the action into the wind makes it go. So unless you don't put anything in front of Shakti and you keep it in the mental space, it just keeps blowing to where it blows. But I think this is what happens when you go to an office, you know. The life power is there, but you're not using it. You're not putting something in front of it to shoot it. But I think, like, I don't know.
I
what
would
I'm going with
say
this.
that there is no time when the Shiva and Shakti are not co-present in the now. They're always co-present. When there's something blowing, there's also content of which it is blown
Bye.
by. It is always, Shiva and Shakti are coexistent. They cannot exist without each other. They're always there. But sometimes you can say that the Shiva on the Shakti is not optimal, or is going into a direction which is maybe too mental, or
Too
You know
Kali
what I
or something.
Yeah,
like
it's not reflective of its pure potential of what it can be as a reflection of the Shakti. You know what I'm trying?
I know exactly what you're trying to say.
But yeah, the I mean, it's
I'm just
interesting.
visualizing. They say there's a meditation of like Ram Dass, and he sits
Yeah.
and he breathes on back of his head and back.
Yes.
He exhales and he breathes the exhale back in.
Well, like the exhale from the nose.
Yeah, he inhales from the nose all the way back to his spine. He exhales from the mouth and he inhales from the nose.
And he can inhale and exhale at the same time? No.
No, I don't think. I think that's the jury do or like. But I think he is the one who is. He is the one who is making Shakti, but also breathing in at the same time. But if there's no air, there's no Ram Dass, and if there's no Ram Dass, there's no breathing air to be breathed.
Anyways, you were talking about, the artist and the role of the art then being that, which brings, consciousness back to the moment, consciousness back to its recognition of who it is, let's put it like that.
But if you have to conclude in like a minute, like what would you say? If you have to conclude like.
That everything is totally intermingling and interchanging, and it is so hard to say what something is and something not, with including the totality of it, because any aspect which is trying to be concluded can be faced or confronted with the totality, and therefore its strength and rigidity of its conclusion is shattered in the face of the infinite possibility to which it is faced against. So it is so hard to say it is just this and it is so just that, because we can bring its totality, and it's not just this, it's boom, 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 boom. And this is reflected in the sense where you're talking about, art as also an artist as being that which brings consciousness from the mental sphere back to the now, so bring it back to its recognition of who it is and its own potential. And artists as being those carriers and instruments which make that happen, but how can we say that anything which is happening, be it a new discovery in the scientific field or the medicinal field, or a new invention of a particular substance, or be it the invention of a new machine, or be it a UFO, how can we say that anything which comes about as a new form, as a discovery or an invention, cannot be that which the artists are doing, pulling consciousness back from the mental sphere to the now? How can we say that anything in the dynamic of life right now, in the totality of it on this planet, everything which is happening and coming to be, new thoughts, new feelings, new everything, on all these different paradigms, new discoveries, this ongoing continuity of ever expansiveness, this growth, is not actually that which is pulling life itself back from the mental sphere to the now? How can we say that the artists and the art are not life itself in this moment as it is right now? And how can we segment and separate artists and art from the dynamic which is currently happening, as the dynamic not being the artist and the art, and the art and the artist being something else which is pulling it back? Because the artist and the art and the dynamic and everything which is coming and being born again and again is the artist and the art. You know what I mean? Life, by its ever ongoing dynamic and continuity and birth and death, right now, is its own savior, and is pulling itself back from the mental sphere into the now. And it is inevitable that it won't. It's happening, it will happen, and everything is its own art and its artist. And we cannot say that it is only that and only this, because that is already the illusion. And when it is only this or that, and this is why the Sanskrit word neti neti, not this, not that. The moment you bring this and that,
Duality.
yeah, you already segment and conclude that it is just something which is doing the flow. And I would say that as a conclusion to that, which is again a conclusion reflecting that a conclusion can always be dispersed by its confrontation to the totality, recognizing that whatever it has concluded is dispersed within its format already, because it's also everything else. Let's conclude that It's never just this. It's never just that. It's everything, and everything is intermingling constantly. And then again, the totality of this can face this conclusion, and whatever happens then. But
Yeah, but the same thing goes for art. Like there is no, at least to me, there is no set boundary for it. Like there's no definition of it.
yes,
Like there's a vague description, but that's about where it ends.
because it's a concept which comes so close to life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's resistance to a definition, or it's knowing with each and everyone's hearts that it cannot only be defined as such. Is already its reflection that it is life. You could say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really like the one thing that stuck to me is that every now is manifested.
Yes.
I think that was really a really shift the linguistic understanding of manifestation. Because I thought manifestation was an action upon. But sitting, seeing, thinking is also manifestation. And I think that for me is the conclusion, that the now is constant manifestation upon manifestation upon manifestation.
Yes, yes.
And I think that changes kind of my approach on manifestation, which changes my approach on life, which changes my approach on art, which changes
changes your approach on how you do it. And it comes back, all the way back to where this conversation started. From, you know, living it and showing it.
Yes.
By recognizing that each and every moment is a manifestation of its own.
When you live it.
Yes, and we don't need to create something to manifest upon in order to show it. So this brings the topic all the way back, and it's a beautiful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you
very
very
much.
much. Thank you, man.
Thank you for everything.